Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Learn more right now at Infowars.
Welcome to the Infowars Nightly News. I'm David Knight. It's Tuesday, June 13th, 2017. Here are our top stories.
Tonight, the president's attorney general vigorously denies any and all allegations of Russian collusion during a powerful testimony today that set the record straight.
And the suggestion that I participated in any collusion, that I was aware of any collusion with the Russian government to hurt this country, which I have served with honor for 35 years, or to undermine the integrity of our democratic process is an appalling and detestable lie.
For half a year, the Democratic Party and their surrogates in the mainstream media have not stopped obsessing over their delusional conclusion of Trump collusion. All that plus much more up next on the Infowars Nightly News.
The globalist social engineers are not just targeting us with propaganda. They are manipulating our genetics. We are being targeted at every level by estrogen mimickers that lower our testosterone and other hormones and natural compounds that the body needs. The key is to be aware of this attack and to fight back against it. After consulting top doctors, nutritionists, pharmacists, and others, we have developed what I believe is the ultimate non-GMO organic super male vitality formula sourced from powerful organic herbs harvested around the planet and then concentrated for maximum potency. I've always believed in nutrition and herbs. Super Male Vitality was developed to activate your body's own natural processes instead of using synthetic chemicals. Super Male Vitality by Infowars Life is so powerful that I only take half the recommended dose. Visit InfowarsLife.com today to secure your Super Male Vitality and other powerful products from Infowars Life.
Check out these amazing deals at InfowarsStore.com. 25% off BioTrue Selenium, a powerful antioxidant and back in stock Super Blue fluoride-free toothpaste. Now 33% off. And while you're there, check out the Total Oral Care Pack, which combines our organic mouthwash with the amazing Super Blue toothpaste. Now 37% off. All available right now at InfowarsStore.com.
Tonight, we have Act 2 of the Trump assassination. This is a play. We have a real play that's going on in New York City in the park. And, of course, we'll talk about that here in just a moment. We've got Democrat drama queens, and we've got Broadway actors, and they're celebrating their little ritual assassination of Donald Trump. And they say it's a modern interpretation of the assassination of Julius Caesar. But it's not the Roman Senate. It's the U.S. Senate, where real modern assassination is playing out for real. And it's very fitting, I think, that it would take place in the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee. These are the people, both Democrats and Republicans, who have repeatedly stuck the knife in the Bill of Rights, and it has bled out on the floor of their committee as they've promoted the secret surveillance state that is now engaged in a coup along with mainstream media and the Democrats against Donald Trump. That's quite frankly what's going on. There's no investigation about the collusion between Comey and the individual, the British spy, Christopher Steele, who created and floated out the dirty dossier. There's no investigation of that. There's no investigation of so many different issues and the involvement of the law enforcement and the surveillance community in political actions. That's the real story, the one that nobody is talking about. And, of course, destroying our liberties as well as they destroy the Constitution. You know, it's also necessary to destroy the movement behind Trump, the movement to restore our national sovereignty. And it's also important for them to kill any alternative media that will get around their Operation Mockingbird government propaganda. But let's take a look first at the make-believe assassination that they've got going in Central Park. This is Public Theater's new Free Shakespeare in the Park. And the director, as this has become controversial, Variety says, controversial Julius Caesar play opens to a standing ovation in Central Park. They say the director is going to stand behind his work despite withdrawal of funding support by Bank of America and Delta Airlines. We'll talk about the corporate sponsorship here in just a moment. He addressed a supportive, industry-heavy group that included people like Alec Baldwin and many others who nobody outside their little bubble there in New York and Broadway would know or would care about. So there's a long list of people that Variety has here. You wouldn't recognize anybody but Alec Baldwin, mainly because of the Saturday Night Live assassination attempts on Donald Trump's character that he is engaged on a regular basis. And of course, this comes across really, I think, more as Saturday Night Live than Shakespeare. He says, the event here is not my show. The event here is the right-wing hate machine, they say, as they slash someone who looks like Donald Trump there on stage. You can see them attacking him. That's essentially kind of a metaphor for what's going on against the Trump administration in the real Senate in Washington. And, of course, the Democrats love to play act that stuff out. Say Julius Caesar sports blonde hair, and he has long ties, mimics Trump's hand gestures. His wife speaks with a Slovenian accent similar to Melania, and there's nods to pink pussy hats and Twitter. I told you, it's more like Saturday Night Live than it is Shakespeare. This is what these people are doing. Let's talk about the corporate sponsorship. American Express says they're not going to pull funding for the New York City Public Theater. They're trying to have it both ways, points out the American Mirror. They don't want to offend liberal customers who see no problem with the content of a New York City play that depicts the assassination of President Trump, while also attempting to claim that its dollars are not going to support it. Sounds kind of like the funding of Planned Parenthood, doesn't it? We're going to continue to give money to Planned Parenthood, but not for abortions. Well, of course, all those funds are mixed together, and they point that out in the American Mirror. They say it's disingenuous for American Express to say that they want to clarify their sponsorship of the public theater. They do not fund this production of Shakespeare in the Park, nor do we condone this interpretation of the Julius Caesar play, but they will continue to fund the theater group. And as American Mirror points out, this is only slightly disingenuous because, as anyone with common sense knows, once the funds go to public theaters' coffers or to Planned Parenthood, they mix together and can be used to fund any production or any abortion, as we should say. Now, the same thing is actually being said by Bank of America. Bank of America says, well, we're going to pull our funding for this play, but we're not going to pull our funding for the theater group. But they're getting credited with having pulled out, whereas American Express is getting blamed or credited for staying in. I guess it's just because Bank of America maybe has a better PR department. Nevertheless, Delta Airlines has done the real thing. And remember that when it comes time to vote with your dollars. American Airlines withdrew their funding from this play from the New York City Public Theater. And as they point out, the Trump analogy, they say in Variety, doesn't hold up, however, once Caesar is assassinated on his way to the Senate. Oh, really? No, really? No, we're going to talk about that second act here. You know, Senator Paul actually said, not with an analogy to this theater in the park, but he actually said the Russian hearings are political theater. And it is true. It is political theater. It is a character assassination. It's an attempt to stall the Trump administration from getting anything done. It's an attempt to try to entrap members of the Trump administration and perhaps Donald Trump himself in some kind of a process crime or perjury, even though we see that former FBI Director Comey committed perjury and testifying before the Senate. But of course, nobody's talking about doing anything to him. If that had happened with Senator Sessions or Attorney General Sessions today, believe me, they would have come after him. Now, Rand Paul said that this is simply a political operation. He said it's political theater. Really, those committees aren't getting anywhere. If there was really anything done wrong, it'll come out of the special counsel. And my suspicion is that very little of anything will come out of there. There may be some people who didn't file their paperwork properly or didn't file to be registered as foreign agents, but I kind of doubt there's going to be anything. Now, let's hold it right there. The guy who didn't register as a foreign agent, the organization that Christopher Steele worked for, the Fusion organization, they did not register as a Russian agent. But of course, nobody is investigating that. the people who produced the dirty dossier were unregistered Russian agents, okay? They're not investigating Comey or the FBI's connection to them. And when we have Senator Grassley of the Judiciary Committee ask Comey for an explanation, he just simply ignored him and continued to lie, giving multiple explanations for his involvement there. Paul went on to say, however, he says it's kind of crazy to allege that Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who is a hardliner on Russia, would have ties to the Putin government. He says it's kind of crazy to sort of say, oh, he must have been meeting with them in some secret deal with the Russians. I think there's a political operation going on here, and I think they're dwelling too much on this stuff. No, that's exactly what they want to do. All right, let's look at some of the what came out of the testimony today. As Breitbart points out, Jeff Sessions counters James Comey's story and took that on directly. Of course, he was focused in Comey's testimony last week, saying that he had gone to Attorney General Sessions and said, I'm very uncomfortable with these private meetings with Donald Trump. It's okay, understand, if Comey calls a private meeting with Donald Trump, but it's not okay if Donald Trump were to call a meeting with him. That is improper, prima facie. But it's okay if he calls a meeting, and that's what he did to talk about the dirty dossier, saying, I don't want it to come across as if I'm J. Edgar Hoover. Except he really was. Okay, but let's talk about what happened today. The Attorney General himself took Comey to task, saying that Sessions had shrugged as if to say, what do you want me to do? When the now fired FBI director asked Sessions to help him avoid impropriety with his communications with the White House. And Sessions, in his prepared marks that he read there, said, while Comey did not provide me with any of the substance of his conversation with the president, Mr. Comey expressed concern about the proper communications protocol with the White House and with the president. I responded to his comment by agreeing that the FBI and the Department of Justice needed to be careful to follow department policies regarding appropriate contacts with the White House. Mr. Comey had served in the Department of Justice for the better part of 2 decades, and I was confident that Mr. Comey understood and would abide by the department's well-established rules governing any communications with the White House about ongoing investigations. And then later, there was a heated exchange between Senator Ron Wyden and Attorney General Sessions. He grilled Sessions on his recusal. But then, well, you recused yourself, but then you're part of this firing because, you know, the FBI director does things other than this Russian investigation, which is continuing to go on. It led to a heated exchange in which Wyden accused Sessions of stonewalling by refusing to discuss the limitations of the information on the Russian probe that he did receive before the decision. And Sessions said this. He shook his head and said, Senator Wyden, I am not stonewalling. I am following the historic policies on the Department of Justice. You don't walk into any hearings or committee meeting and reveal confidential communications with the President of the United States. Mr. Comey, perhaps he didn't know, but I basically recused myself the first day I got into office. Now, in addition to that, he said, made it very clear. He said these were despicable lies, and he said in other commentary, he said, I have never met with or had any conversations with any Russians or any foreign officials concerning any type of interference with any campaign or election in the United States. That was from his opening statement. He also denied meeting with Russian officials at the Mayflower Hotel. That was something that Comey released in closed hearings after his public hearings last Thursday. And that was something that the Democrats leaked out. So he says, no, it wasn't true. And then, of course, you guys leaked it out of the closed hearing. He didn't call him on that, but we should call him on that. He said, if there was any brief interaction occurring and passing with the Russian ambassador, I do not remember it. And then he went on to say, in terms of these meetings, he said that Comey, if he was concerned about President Trump meeting with him in private, he said he could have complained to the Deputy Attorney General or to me at any time that he felt pressure. So, again, he's shut this down pretty carefully. Now, one of the things I think that we need to look at with Attorney General Sessions, I don't think there's anything there in Russia. We know that this is simply a red herring that they're using for political purposes. But one thing that he should be grilled on is his continued war on drugs. There is no congressional authority for this. There's no, I should say, constitutional authority for this. Yet today he doubled down on this. Don Salazar has an article on Infowars.com. Sessions declares war on medical marijuana states. This is what he should be grilled on. This is what we should be investigating. A letter from Attorney General Jeff Sessions to legislators shows the Trump administration may take an aggressive role and enforcing federal marijuana laws, including interfering with states where the plant has already been legalized. And as part of this letter, he says, I would believe it would be unwise for Congress to restrict the discretion of the Department of Justice to fund particular prosecutions, particularly in the midst of an historic drug epidemic and potentially long-term uptick in violent crime. He said the department must be in the position to use all laws available to combat the transnational drug organizations and dangerous drug traffickers who threaten American lives. Let's understand, those people were created by the war on drugs, those transnational drug organizations, the dangerous drug traffickers. They were created by the war on drugs just as alcohol prohibition created Al Capone. And yet that was done in accordance with the Constitution. Somebody who says that they follow the Constitution, like Attorney General Sessions, should read it and answer for us why we have a war on drugs and we don't have a constitutional amendment to enable that. Everyone in the United States agreed they needed one for alcohol prohibition, but now they just say everything is prohibited unless it expressly permitted by the FDA, by the DEA. And this is a medical issue, not just recreational drugs. We're coming after medical marijuana. When you give the FDA the power to say that you can't take drugs for your own health, that is a position, you've taken a position of servile slavery, and it is an unconstitutional position. We have to understand this war on drugs is a UN agenda created 10 years before Richard Nixon enacted it verbatim in his war on drugs. Now, he went on to say, it is thus surprising that in the last administration, both the Department of Health and Human Services and the DEA concluded that marijuana has a high potential for abuse, no currently accepted medical use and treatment in the United States, and a lack of accepted safety for use under medical supervision. Now, that's quite frankly just simply a lie. We have medical marijuana, and it is an acknowledgement by the states. Even here in Texas, they acknowledge that we have a medical use for marijuana. They've only acknowledged one narrowly defined medical use, but it is indisputable that it helps people to deal with continued brain or continued epileptic seizures induced by vaccinations, of all things, okay? So we have a lot of research out there that shows that medical marijuana is very effective. So it's an absolute lie to say that. And of course, it is self-serving for these regulatory captured organizations like the FDA, like the DEA, who are self-serving in this war on drugs to say that there is no medical use for it and to continue on with this failed experiment in prohibition that has been going on for 46 years. They pointed out that, and this is in the article here, President Trump during the 2016 election campaign vowed to favor states' rights when it came to marijuana, at one time saying that he supported medical marijuana 100%. That was what candidate Trump said. Let's hope that President Trump will shut down this insane reefer madness coming from Attorney General Sessions. In 1990, Trump was also quoted as labeling the federal government's war on drugs, quote, a joke. Yes, it's a very dangerous, a very bad joke. We're losing badly the war on drugs, Trump said, according to the Sarasota Herald Tribune. You have to legalize drugs to win that war. You have to take the profit away from these drug czars. Let me repeat that again. This was President Trump in 1990. You have to legalize drugs to win the war on drugs. You have to take away the profit from the drug czars. Instead, we have our federal government taking away property from people that they have never even accused of a crime. It's called civil, that's a joke, civil asset forfeiture. It is nothing but theft by law enforcement to fund their departments, to grow their little empires. And it's despicable that we have an attorney general that will jump onto this. As he said, good people don't smoke marijuana. I would say good attorney generals don't violate the Constitution. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're going to take a look at Megyn Kelly.
We've taken thousands of years of known research and put it together with our own 4 years of seeking and testing to find the very best systems that God gave us through Mother Nature to detoxify the body. That's why I'm introducing Z-Shield, Toxic Metal and Chemical Defense Support. It's made in the USA. It's filled with known compounds from nature that are absolutely associated with detoxifying the body, and it supports the InfoWar. It is a classical 360 win. Our formula at InfoWarsLife.com is, quite frankly, simple. We go out and look at the recognized research, and we take it to the next level of quality, of purity, and of strength. Because this is what I personally use for myself and my family. We've gone through 5 or 6 different permutations in the last 4 years since we launched Infowars Life to actually come up with this. This is the formula that I personally have been taking for over a year, and now we believe we have come as close to perfection when it comes to a detoxifier as you can possibly get. If you're not mitigating the pesticides, the heavy metals, the chemicals, if you're not trying to purify your water, if you're not trying to take products like Z-Shield that are full of known concentrated compounds that help purify our cells and our bodies, you're crazy. You owe it to yourself, you owe it to your family, and you owe it to the future of this country and the world that patriots stay as healthy and as clean and as focused as you can be, because we need you, the remnant of America, to reignite those brush fires to the next level and to be healthy and as focused as you can be. Because if you're sick, if you're over there on the sidelines and not in the fight, you're basically giving in to the New World Order. Thanks to your support and your prayers, together, we're changing the world. Now it's time to change our bodies with Z-Shield at InfoWarsLife.com.
I want to tell you about some of the products at InfoWarsStore.com. We are under constant attack. You know it by now from the mainstream media. They're trying to attack us on every level now with the YouTube scandal. They're demonetizing our channels, which again takes a huge chunk out of our income, which is why we always appreciate and rely on you getting the products, because that's how we stay afloat. They can't get to us that way. They can't pressure you to not buy the products. They don't have that power. And that's why you're the key to this entire operation. We have Super Blue fluoride-free toothpaste, bubblegum flavor, just arrived at InfoWarsStore.com. This is by listener request. Bubblegum flavored Super Blue toothpaste now available at InfoWarsStore.com in limited supply. Again, if you're not using fluoride-free toothpaste by now, you're absolutely insane. Harvard studies, it reduces IQ, it causes bone cancer. It's not great, let's just put it that way. And I've been using it for about, 15 years now? So you're going to buy it anyway, why not buy it from us? It's in limited supply, but it is available at InfoWarsStore.com with the new bubblegum flavor. Super Blue fluoride-free toothpaste, and it supports this network, which is under constant demonization and attack, because we don't take big fat checks from George Soros. We don't get put on extremist lists, even though they want us to. That's how they're taking away the YouTube money. That's why we need your support more than ever, because we're not funded by giant corporations who are now pulling the plug on YouTube as they move it into a TV thing, a Netflix model, to drown out independent voices. So support us by getting the products at InfoWarsStore.com.
Well, of course, the top search term this weekend was Megyn Kelly and Alex Jones. And most of that focused on the issue of Sandy Hook. Did something really happen there? I think what they're really concerned about is the fact that we shut down their push for gun control. But let's talk about false flags for a moment. I mentioned a few weeks ago, I asked people to give me various names for the different types of false flags, because not every false flag is completely done by actors. There's different types of false flags. We had the kinds of false flags that we had to start the Vietnam War, the Gulf of Tonkin resolution. We had the false flag that was used to start World War II. We've had a lot of different types of false flags. One of the ones that came back was from a person on Twitter, Londerosa, and I thought they had some good ideas. One of them was an opportunistic false flag. I think that's a good way to put it. When there's a real event, and then the government seizes that as an opportunity to push forward their legislative agenda or their pet project. So we see that happen pretty frequently. Was that what happened at Sandy Hook? You know, I would think that parents at Sandy Hook, I would think that the parents of Seth Rich and others would want to know what really happened, to their children. Wouldn't you? I certainly would. I would want to know where it went, regardless of who was involved. I mean, if somebody said that Ron Paul was involved in something where one of my children died, as improbable as that would be, I would still want that thoroughly investigated. And if the trail led to him, I would want him prosecuted. But many people don't want to go to particular places because of their political connections. But, you know, we have other types of false flags. We've got kind of passive false flags. I would say that when we look at the United Kingdom's London Bridge attack, I would call that a passive false flag. They bring these people in. They shoot documentaries about the jihadi next door. They allow them to be there. They ignore complaints about these people, hoping that they will do something that will allow them to increase their surveillance state, not to stop people coming in. So I would call that a passive false flag. Then we have kind of the, I would say, the enhanced or even the directed false flags. And that would be something like we saw if it's exposed, I could say, well, we were just setting up a sting. We really weren't doing anything. But they start directing people, and then they pull back and they let it happen. Or maybe they see that the Japanese are moving in on Pearl Harbor, and they say, well, let's not really do anything. Let's kind of shut that down and shut that information down because I really want them to be able to attack Pearl Harbor. Maybe they didn't want it to go as far as it did, didn't think that it was going to be as big as it was, but they really wanted them to take the first strike so they could get into the war. So maybe we got the enhanced or the directed false flag, and then we got the whole cloth false flag, where everything about it is fake. So you can take a look at what's going on, but where we got into this, we had an investigator who really did want to know what had happened at Sandy Hook. Wolfgang Halbig was somebody who had law enforcement experience as well as being a principal. He became a consultant looking into these types of events. He had investigated these school shootings all over the place. And he would look at it and say, I would want to know, if I had a child in school, I would want to know what had happened at that school so it wouldn't happen at my school. And he would want to know that as well. All of us should want to know that. But the question is, why would they shut that down? Why would they shut down that investigation? Why would they threaten him in Florida as he's looking at? Why would they come after that individual and threaten him? And they've never done that before. There's something to see there. But we push back against that. Even if it was just simply an opportunistic false flag, we shut down their effort for gun control, and they're very upset about that. Now we got J.P. Morgan saying they're going to pull all the ads from NBC News until after this interview with Alex Jones airs. J.P. Morgan, their namesake, was the guy who created chaos and crisis as a false flag in order to create the Federal Reserve, bringing people together in Jekyll Island as a solution to the thing that he had created. J.P. Morgan, the people who were involved in fraud, mortgage fraud, the people who paid $9 billion to shut down an investigation, they don't want you to know about Alex Jones. They don't want you to see our reports. I've had my report on It's a Wonderful Lie, showing how the creation of the Federal Reserve paralleled some of the events in It's a Wonderful Life. They both took place at Christmas time. They shut that down multiple times on YouTube, even though the clips that I used were fair use, even though I had taken them from the full movie that had been up and was watchable in the United States as well as in other places. They said, well, you can't do this in the United States. They reasserted that they had a copyright here in the United States. They took that down multiple times. We kept having people repost it, and they would take it down. And we fought with them for several months before we finally got it up there. They don't want you to know the origin of the Federal Reserve. They don't want you to know that the owner of Chobani, a Turkish citizen, is sitting on the private Federal Reserve Board. So J.P. Morgan, who normally sponsors NBC, Operation Mockingbird, they even got a peacock there. Actually, they're a parrot of what the government wants them to put out. They don't want you to see Alex Jones. They don't want you to understand how the bankers are deceiving us. And here's an example of this. Going back to 2014, Matt Taibbi, Rolling Stone magazine, he does a great job of exposing these crooked banks like HSBC and J.P. Morgan. Back in 2014, the title of the article was The $9 Billion Witness, Meet J.P. Morgan Chase's Worst Nightmare. This is a woman, Elaine Fleischman. She had 8 years of keeping a heavy secret. She said, it was like watching an old lady get mugged on the street. I thought, I can't sit by any longer. She was a central witness in one of the biggest cases of white-collar crime in American history, possessing secrets that J.P. Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon late last year paid $9 billion to keep the public from hearing. Back in 2006, as a deal manager at the gigantic bank, Fleischman, first witness, then tried to stop what she described as, quote, massive criminal securities fraud in J.P. Morgan's mortgage operations. Thanks to a confidentiality agreement, she said, she'd kept her mouth shut. Not even her closest family or her brother knew what was going on. She said, they'll find out when I do this interview. She was blocked at every turn by asleep-on-the-job regulators, or maybe people who had regulatory capture, who were supposed to be the regulators, but they love the banks that they're regulating because they just have this wonderful relationship. Or like the Securities and Exchange Commission. She was blocked by a court system that allowed Chase to use its billions to bury her evidence. But they said the past year, in 2013, she watched as Eric Holder's Justice Department struck a series of historic settlement deals with Chase, Citigroup, and Bank of America, like they did with HSBC, where James Comey was. They took James Comey out of the bank that was given a sweetheart deal and put him in as FBI director, even after they'd convicted them multiple times for money laundering for drug cartels and terrorist organizations. But this case was essentially cash for secrecy, as Matt Taibbi points out. He said the banks paid big fines so that they wouldn't have trials, so that they wouldn't have judges, only secret negotiations that typically ended with the public shown nothing but vague, quasi-official papers called statements of fact, which were conveniently devoid of anything like actual facts. He said now, and that was in 2014, Eric Holder was about to leave office, and his Justice Department reportedly wrapped up its final settlements. The state is effectively putting the finishing touches on what will amount to a sweeping industry-wide effort to bury the facts of a whole generation of Wall Street corruption. Will NBC tell you that story? Will NBC talk about the crimes of HSBC, the crimes of J.P. Morgan? Will they talk about the origins of the Federal Reserve? No, they won't. And that's why J.P. Morgan doesn't want you to see the Alex Jones interview. And that's why they're going to pull their corporate sponsorship until after it airs. All right, let's take a look at what's going on elsewhere. We've got global warming researchers now have canceled a trip due to severe ice. This is a story by Kit Daniels at Infowars.com. Their trip began May 25th in Quebec City, but due to bad ice conditions off the coast of Newfoundland, the icebreaker was diverted from its course to help ferries and fishing boats navigate the Strait of Belle Isle. Thick, dense ice had traveled to the area down from the high Arctic, and it caused unsuspecting boats to become stuck, even to take on water. The same guy, of course, had claimed that man-made climate change reduced the thickness of the ice, caused it to float southward. Yet the Environment and Climate Change Canada seems to have unintentionally contradicted his claim. They said typically there'd be very little or no ice left in either of these areas this year, let alone the thick ice pack that we're currently seeing off the northeast coast of Newfoundland. Isn't this interesting? Because it was just last July, Climate Depot reported about another expedition that was going up to document the disappearing ice in the Arctic, and they got stuck. They got stuck in the ice. And it was in 2014 that we had a Russian ship that was ferrying passengers get stuck in the ice, and then the rescue icebreaker got stuck in the ice trying to get them out, because they're also trying to show that there's no ice in the Antarctic. Meanwhile, we have a leaked memo showing how the wind industry really is very afraid of what's going to happen. They're trying to shut down this. They want their crony capitalism. They want their Solyndra funding, and they're concerned what's going to happen under the Trump administration. Stay with us when we come back. John Bound takes another look at the Sessions testimony.
Electrify your day with Secret 12. It's like lightning in a bottle. We all have days in which we just can't seem to perform at the level we'd like to. Infowars Life Secret 12 is designed to naturally energize your body and mind with 2 great tasting and super high quality forms of vitamin B12. Proper vitamin and nutrient intake is essential to keep your body functioning at optimum levels. The reality is, it's hard to take in the proper amount of vitamins we need each day with our modern diets. Secret 12 by Infowars Life is an easy way to naturally upgrade your vitamin B12 intake and support your body's natural systems. It pairs 2 forms of vitamin B12 into one explosive formula. Vitamin B12 supports healthy energy levels through red blood cell formation and aiding in the body's natural processes, but it also assists with many other functions of the body. Electrify your mind and body and take your health to the next level. Experience the power of Secret 12 at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com.
Vitamin Mineral Fusion. Visit InfoWarsLife.com to secure your canister. We have worked for years with our chemists and scientists to create the most powerful and affordable, great-tasting multivitamin formula available. Vitamin Mineral Fusion Drink Mix at InfoWarsLife.com is loaded with a full month's supply of essential vitamins, minerals, and amino acids that your body absolutely needs. In the history of InfoWars Life, we've brought out a lot of amazing products like Survival Shield X2, Super Male Vitality, and so many others. With its unique delivery system and proprietary manufacturing process designed for maximized effects, this formula is the platinum standard of multivitamin mineral products. And this part is most important. The ingredients in Vitamin Mineral Fusion are either plant-derived or of the highest quality lab standard. That means it's clean. That means it's pure. And rest assured, you're fighting the tip of the spear in the info war. That's InfoWarsLife.com and Vitamin Mineral Fusion. Take action now before we sell out. We have the new products at InfoWarsLife.com, BioTrue Selenium.
We've had so many requests over the years for selenium, and just recently, we were able to source a certified organic, bioavailable selenium from mustard seed extract. When you take selenium in the body, it actually benefits the detoxification systems in your body. It helps balance the thyroid gland. It helps detoxify.
Selenium is another one of those absolute must-haves.
The highest concentration of selenium is in the thyroid gland, but it's actually used all over the body. As a matter of fact, there's 25 genes in the body that are directly dependent upon selenium. So it really is a all-around nutrient that everybody really needs.
I'm taking it now every day. This is so key. BioTrue Selenium is the product, the best selenium that we could bring you. We believe it's the best out there at a very, very low price. Exclusively available at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139. We're selling a product, DNA Force, that is the very best nutraceutical that we can produce. Dr. Group, you took years for you to develop DNA Force for us.
It's been something that I've been working on for a long time, Alex, because I think it's very, very important. What the aging process is when the cell replicates, we lose a little bit of our telomeres. Telomeres are the little cups on the end of our chromosomes.
And when it runs out, you start dying.
We chose the PQQ because it has over 175 different clinical trials. It's one of the most effective substances in the world. It works like an antioxidant. It works to repair nerve growth factor.
So this is a formula to deliver the maximum amount. It's in powder form.
We have so many 5-star reviews. I take this. This is the product that I take.
InfoWarsLife.com, and the profit we make, we fight the globals. We fight the New World Order. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.
Rumors upon rumors. That's what the dying mainstream media rumor Goliath would have us all swallow. One of those rumors, that Trump and his cabinet were mulling over firing the special counsel head, former FBI Director Mueller, to the ire of the Democrats, that was quickly swatted down by truth.
Do you know of any reason for cause to fire Mr. Mueller as of this date?
No, I do not, Senator.
And that would be your decision if that ever happened, right?
That's correct.
And you're going to make it, nobody else?
As long as I'm in this position, Senator, it'll be my responsibility to make that decision.
Well, I'm glad you're in this position.
But I just wanted to get you on the record that you would not,
Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein,
with your recusal, you would not take any actions to try to have Special Investigator Mueller removed.
I wouldn't think that would be appropriate for me to do.
Yes, sir, I agree.
He went up to you and said, you know, never leave me alone with the president again. It's not appropriate. And he said, this is his characterization. You just kind of shrugged, like as if to say, what am I supposed to do about it?
Well, I think I described it more completely, correctly. He raised that issue with me, I believe, the next day. I think that was correct. And he expressed concern to me about that private conversation. And I agreed with him essentially that there are rules on private conversations with the president, but there's not a prohibition on a private discussion with the president, as I believe he's acknowledged 6 or more himself with President Obama and President Trump. He certainly knew that with regard that he could call his direct supervisor, which in the Department of Justice, the direct supervisor to the FBI is the Deputy Attorney General. He could have complained to the deputy or to me at any time if he felt pressured, but I had no doubt that he would not yield to any pressure.
I'm asking when you would be asked these questions and you would rely on that policy. Did you not ask your staff to show you the policy? You're refusing to answer the majority of questions that have been asked.
Should be allowed to answer the question.
Senators will allow the chair to control the hearing.
Respectfully, you're not answering the question.
Well, what is the question?
The question is, Mr. Comey said that there were matters with respect to the recusal that were problematic and he couldn't talk about them. What are they?
Why don't you tell me? There are none, Senator Wyden. There are none. I can tell you that for absolute certainty. You tell, this is a secret innuendo being leaked out there about me, and I don't appreciate it. And I tried to give my best and truthful answers to any committee I've appeared before. And it's really, people are suggesting through innuendo that I have been not honest about matters, and I've tried to be honest.
Meanwhile, Americans have reached total burnout on the left's full-blown hoax, slowing the promises made by the elected president. The Daily Caller reports voters in Midwest states describe fatigue as a reason why they tune out of the investigations related to the Trump administration and Russia. But Democrats insist the American people want the Russia probes to continue. NBC News spoke to various constituents who appear to be growing tired of the investigations. Jim Wagner of Dubuque, Iowa, and a Vietnam veteran said, "People are making too much of it. I don't think there was really anything going on. I just wish Trump would shut everybody up and tell them instead of playing the game. I didn't vote for him, but if he can put it to bed, he ought to."
I think that Comey himself, by his own testimony, tainted this particular process. You have a director of the FBI deliberately leaking in order to create a special counsel who we're now supposed to believe is going to be this neutral figure. I think that's just nonsense.
Attorney General Jeff Sessions and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein dealt in fact on the Hill today, something becoming increasingly alien to the left and its unyielding waste of American votes, tax dollars, and precious time. John Bound for Infowars.com.
The questions President Trump tried to shake for months aren't going anywhere.
An independent investigation into the Trump campaign and the Trump administration's relationship to Russia.
What, if any, collusive links exist now or existed earlier?
A man who publicly admires and now very possibly colludes with Vladimir Putin?
Were there U.S. persons that were helping the Russians in any way? Was there any form of collusion?
I think the Russians participated in helping this man get elected.
He's under active investigation with talk of impeachment growing louder by the day.
Deep personal, political, and financial ties that Donald Trump and people in his family, in his businesses, and on his campaign had with a foreign adversary in Russia.
This morning, the Washington Post reporting that a secret CIA report found Russia interfered in the U.S. election to help Donald Trump win the White House.
Hillary Clinton saw a Putin connection.
The grand godfather of this global brand of extreme nationalism is Russian President Vladimir Putin. The Kremlin, meaning Putin and the Russian government, are directing the attacks, the hacking on American accounts to influence our election. This has come from the highest levels of the Russian government, clearly from Putin himself.
Seen that movie, The Manchurian Candidates? Yeah, it's about a Russian mole who's brainwashed to run for president. Trump is like if the Manchurian Candidate ran as the Manchurian Candidate.
Scum! You are beholden to scum! Russian scum!
At what point do you start to wonder if there is a fire to all this smoke?
I would characterize it this way at the outset of the investigation. There is circumstantial evidence of collusion.
Comey will dispute President Trump's blanket claim that he was told 3 times that he was not under investigation by Jim Comey.
I've learned, my colleagues Eric Lichtblau and Jay Tapper, we've all learned that, in fact, that Comey is going to dispute the president on this point. If he is asked about it by senators, and we have to assume that he will be, he will say that he never assured Donald Trump that he was not under investigation.
It could be years before the investigation's complete. Until then, its cloud hangs over the Trump administration, the shadow of Russia looming.
President Putin, you have repeatedly and passionately denied that Russia was behind the interference with our American presidential election. But as you know, the consensus view in the United States is that you did. Are they all lying?
They have been misled.
The assumption of the critics of the president, of his pursuers, you might say, is that somewhere along the line in the last year, the president had something to do with colluding with the Russians, something to do with the helping hand, encouraging them, feeding their desire to affect the election in some way. Some role they played, some conversation he had with Michael Flynn or Paul Manafort or somewhere. And yet what came apart this morning was that theory.
How many times do I have to answer this question?
Can you just say
Russia
yes or no
is a
on it?
ruse. Yeah, I know you have to get up and ask a question, so important. Russia is a ruse.
I gather from all of this that you're willing to say now that while you were director, the President of the United States was not under investigation. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct.
All right, so that's a fact that we can rely on.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We keep talking about this cloud. You perceive the cloud to be the Russian investigation in general. Yes, sir. But the specific ask was that you would tell the American people what you had already told him, what you had already told the leaders of Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, that he was not personally under investigation. Yes, sir. In fact, he was asking you to do what you have done here today. Correct. Yes, sir.
The Federal Reserve is a private banking cartel.
The Fed is a sometimes very independent organization.
What should be the proper relationship between the chairman of the Fed and a president of the United States?
The Federal Reserve is an independent agency. There is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take.
They print our money and then loan it to us at interest. The IRS is their collection agency.
So long as that is in place and there is no evidence that the administration or the Congress or anybody else is requesting that we do things other than what we think is the appropriate thing, then what the relationships are don't frankly matter.
Jeff Duncan says he saw IRS special agents using semi-automatic rifles at a gun range. Now he wants answers to why the agency needs that type of firepower.
Is this global governance at last? Is it one world? The central bankers in charge?
Know your history, and you will know your enemy. Infowars.com.
I'm not gonna sit here and take it anymore.
Alex Jones here with a very important news update to anybody out there that wants to be prepared. But it goes beyond being prepared. Our bodies absolutely must have the good halogen iodine or we will die. And you look at all of the thyroid problems and all the people that don't have energy and that have all sorts of hormone problems. And from my research, and a lot of just mainline research, it leads back to iodine over and over and over again. It's as important as vitamin C. If you don't get iodine, you die. But most people are just deficient, so they're low energy, they're sick. You got to have iodine in your body so that your body can produce the hormones you need. It is the base to so many things. And since I got into iodine 4 years ago, we've helped change the entire paradigm by developing and bringing to the public deep earth crystals from 7,000 to 12,000 feet of the purest iodine available. Other iodine comes from the ocean or from other byproducts of chemical facilities and is tainted. It's bound. It's not absorbable. I tried it. And I had incredible effects even with dirty iodine because the body needs it. When you don't have iodine, it absorbs the chlorine, the fluoride, and all these other bad halogens. do yourself and your family a favor and check out the importance of iodine for yourself. I think you're going to be blown away. And whatever you do, support the broadcast and get a bottle of Survival Shield Nascent Iodine X2. Also consult your physician, because if you've been deficient in it or have other issues, it can have some dramatic effects. As for me and most folks I talk to, it's been a game changer in the positive column, but still consult your physician, because iodine is no joke. It's a key building block of the body. And if you haven't had it for a long time and suddenly have it, some folks say they've experienced things like a detoxing effect and things like that. You've got to have vitamin C. You've got to have iodine to live. You've got to have water to live. Iodine is key. You must have it, but consult your physician first before you get powerful Survival Shield Nascent Iodine X2 at InfoWarsLife.com, or call toll-free. We can answer your questions, 888-253-3139.
We are now joined by Michael Cargill of Central Texas Gunworks. Michael comes on with us often. You are a gun rights activist, Second Amendment enthusiast, and we love your stances on guns, I got to tell you. But you have actually been perhaps asked to be a part of a traffic commission now to try to deal with the traffic in Austin that's out of control, but they won't let you on. Why?
Well, you know, the city of Austin, which is the capital of Texas, we actually have some of the worst traffic in the nation right now. And so I was asked by a council member to be a part of a commission to talk about the traffic and solving our traffic problems here in Austin. Well, once all these other council members got together, they decided not to vote for me, to vote for everyone else, but not me, because I support the Second Amendment. They said that I was a dangerous person. I, could not be trusted. I was not a good enough citizen to talk about traffic because I supported the Second Amendment.
Wait. They classified you as a dangerous person?
That is correct.
You're probably one of the safest people going.
Absolutely. I'm a gun store owner. I'm an LTC instructor. I'm a private security instructor. I'm the executive director for Texas for Accountable Government. I'm a part of a lot of different organizations, and I have a heck of a background, as well as being in the Army for 12 years. I've been a transportation NCOIC in the military, doing wartime and during peacetime. So I know traffic, I know transportation. I'm the most qualified person for that job. But because I support the Second Amendment and I stand up and fight for the Second Amendment, they're saying that, hey, I do not fit the right person for that job.
And this to me is just another example of liberals cutting off their nose to spite their face. You can come in and do the job well. Maybe you can actually help solve the traffic issue here in Austin, which, folks, it really is that bad. I'm telling you, I've lived it now. But they don't want anything to do with you just because they don't agree with you on one policy. So they're shutting you out from improving the city of Austin just because you guys disagree on something.
Absolutely. And this is happening all around the nation, where if you support the Second Amendment, they're saying that, hey, because you defend our Constitution, you defend our rights, then we don't want your voice to represent the people and to talk about something that has nothing to do with the Second Amendment.
Well, I couldn't even believe that. Was the first thing that I heard. They were like, he's going to be on this traffic commission. I'm like, oh, that's great. Michael Cargill, he's a great thinker. He thinks on his feet. He's a problem solver. He has the resume. And then they were like, well, no, but they're not going to vote him on. They're going to reject him from being on there. It's like, well, why? Like, well, because he's a Second Amendment activist. It's like, there is no correlation. You're talking about a completely separate thing. If they made a council that said, we're going to make this council to try to stop the Second Amendment from being in Austin, stop open carry, stop, long arm carry, whatever, that I understand. They wouldn't want to put you on that commission. You probably wouldn't be a good fit for that commission. But this is a traffic commission. What are they thinking? I mean, how do they even have a plan? Have they even started to talk about a plan? Or are they more focused on just getting their cronies in the council than actually a plan?
Absolutely. And it's sad that people who support the Second Amendment, and for one, it's called the Bill of Rights. It's not called the Bill of Needs. And that's what a lot of people need to understand. They're really upset about the fact that I'm also suing the city of Austin. Right now, city of Austin will not allow license holders to carry inside City Hall with a license. Okay, so because of that, I actually filed a lawsuit against the city of Austin because under our state laws, we should be able to carry a handgun in any state or city, county building, with the exception of any government court, offices utilized by the court, or if it's an open meeting. If they're having some type of open meeting, then they can prohibit license holders from carrying. But in other city buildings or city-owned property, we should be able to carry in those places with a handgun license. Well, the city of Austin refuses to follow the law. Since they refuse to follow the law and allow license holders to carry, what I've done is I've said, you know what? I filed a complaint with the Texas Attorney General's office, and the Texas Attorney General agreed with me, and now they're suing the city of Austin, and that lawsuit is up to $3 million right now. And so that money is going to go, guess what? For traffic. It's going to go to fix our infrastructure when we win that lawsuit.
Oh, but they don't want you to have a part of that, though.
No, absolutely not.
Have you mentioned the fact that this lawsuit is ongoing and you could help it even further? Have they even realized that?
Well, they know, and the lawsuit's against them, so they're definitely fighting me on it, but it doesn't matter. We're going to win the lawsuit. License holders will be able to carry in City Hall. That's inevitable. That's going to happen, whether they like it or not. But they can, if they want to choose not to allow me on a commission to talk about traffic and other things, that's fine. You know what? I'm going to stand outside the gate and I'm going to throw rocks and continue to fight on, because this is about liberty. This is about justice. This is about the Constitution. This is about everyone's rights. And we have a right to drive from point A to point B. We need to fix those issues. And as the mayor of a capital city, our mayor should not be concerned about climate change and things that he has no control over. Instead, he needs to be concerned about traffic and infrastructure.
Yeah, and you also mentioned breaking the law. You've got a government that is trying to make Austin into a sanctuary city right now. That would be going against the law as well. But you would think, based on the account that you just gave me, I mean, that is what you want in somebody serving on these councils. That is what you want when somebody takes voluntary service to help a public issue like traffic. Somebody who says, I'm putting the community above myself. I'm putting these goals above myself because I care about the community. That's what Michael has done with the Second Amendment. That's what he's trying to do with Austin, Texas traffic, but they don't want him on that. And, I'm just going to throw this out there because I know, and I'm not trying to put words or anything in your mouth. I just know if you were a liberal, or we were liberals talking here, and it was some conservative commission or some conservative board that didn't let you on it, you know exactly what they would be saying.
They would cry bloody murder, and it just would be just insane.
Look at the racists that won't allow Michael on the commission. That's what they would be
so quick to call the Republicans or the conservatives racist because they wouldn't let a black person who's clearly qualified on the commission. But instead, the tides have turned.
But see, I love that. I'm the one that brought that up. Michael doesn't even bring that up because he's a conservative. He doesn't let that stuff get him down. I'm just trying to paint the picture here if it was coming from the opposite side, and I think that everybody would agree on that. So just tell me, so they're going to try to keep you off of this council. They're going to try to do everything because they don't like your views on the Second Amendment. Are you going to try to get back on this council, or are you just going to say, fine, you don't want my help? Fine, go ahead and let Austin traffic be miserable.
No, we're going to continue to fight for the citizens of Austin because this affects the entire state of Texas. 35, that corridor, that is the main corridor through the middle of Texas. So this is for all Texans, not just Austinites. And we've got to do something about traffic in this town because it affects the entire state. And, and thanks to Councilmember Houston, who said, who's a Democrat, who said, Michael, you're a Republican, you're a conservative. I'd like to get your input on this. And I respect her for that, for doing that.
Yeah, I saw that she was one of the people that voted with the conservative side, with the law, or trying to not just have partisan politics, but invite everybody in because they want to take care of the issue, which is traffic. There you can see the votes. Michael, tell our audience, how can people in Texas who care about this issue, how can they get involved? How can their voice be heard?
What I need people to do is I need you to call the city of Austin. I need you to tell the city of Austin to follow the law. I need you to tell the city of Austin that Michael Cargill and other conservatives are also important when it comes to making decisions in this town. That we can make decisions when it comes to traffic. We can make decisions when it comes to the infrastructure. Call them and call every single council member and let them know they need to watch what they're doing because we're not going to stand for this. We're not going to stand for it. We're going to defend our Second Amendment rights at all costs, and we're going to also be a part of the conversation. You're not going to shut our voices down. This is about freedom. This is about justice. This is about liberty. This is about our Constitution, and everyone needs to follow it.
And you came to me and you're saying, look, here's why Austin traffic is so bad. Here's what they could have done, but they don't want to hear your voice. They don't want to hear your suggestions.
Absolutely. And like I said, call. I need you to call them. We're going to show you the telephone numbers here. Call them. Call them every day. Call them, email them, and let them know that they need to definitely listen to what we have to say.
And I think that this is a good example just for other situations too, not just getting Michael Cargill on this traffic council, but for any situation. You out there, take action. Take action in your local community. Try to be a member of some council. Maybe you don't want to be the member of the council, so be an active citizen. Call the people in charge. Say, hey, I want Michael Cargill on this council because he cares about me. He cares about the public interest, not just partisan politics, not just some liberal agenda. Michael Cargill, thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Today is Austin. Tomorrow's your town. Tomorrow's your state. Definitely call now. Let them know this is about freedom. This is about liberty.
This is about freedom. This is about improving our communities, and it starts with you.
I am very proud to announce the introduction of the highest quality Infowars Biome Defense Probiotic. We wanted to come out with the largest spectrum of high quality known probiotics that have been proven to improve overall digestion and health and detoxification in the body. Biome Defense is an exclusive blend of 50 billion live and active cultures from over 23 different probiotic strains that are known to support digestion and intestinal function. Our researchers are confident that we have been able to develop what will be the leading probiotic on the market. Secure your Biome Defense in ultra strength or regular strength at InfoWarsLife.com today and get started supporting your digestive system naturally. We've been testing this formula for years, but this is the limited first run to the public, so please take advantage of it today. Support your own health and support the InfoWar.
Welcome to the Infowars Nightly News. I'm David Knight. It's Tuesday, June 13th, 2017. Here are our top stories.
Tonight, the president's attorney general vigorously denies any and all allegations of Russian collusion during